Good morning, everyone. This is Mitch. Hope you're having a great start to your Saturday morning as we finally made it to the weekend again. Unfortunately, the weather doesn't look as fall-like across the majority of the eastern U.S., like the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. But some good news on that for the latter part of next week, and we're going to touch base on that. We're going to touch base on the tropics, and we're going to just talk about this weekend's forecast and really zone in on the mid-Atlantic and the southeast and even the northeast, as it doesn't look like there's anything active going on here, but there is some things to talk about. So we're going to go over the weekend forecast, the tropics, and then talk about that potent cold front that is going to be a big-time pattern change for us. It might just flat out, for some folks, switch us from summer to fall, maybe permanently. So we're going to talk about that and break that down in this video. Just want to say thank you all for the amazing support. It looks like within the next 2 weeks, I will have a new setup, a new computer. So hopefully y'all can see things a little bit more clear on my videos. It's about that time to upgrade my stuff and really just put the foot on the pedal with this. I've had a lot of growth, and thanks to all y'all with sticking with me and being a family type atmosphere. Haven't really had to deal with many trolls. It really hasn't been that bad of an experience. I'm on a mission to get to 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So thank y'all. Thank y'all for the amazing support. Just watching my videos is definitely appreciated. So let's get going here. If you guys have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I upload every single day. Yesterday being the lone example when I don't upload. Normally when the weather's kind of quiet, and sometimes I just get a little burnout, so I have to take a little one-day break. But upload every day. I'm a storm chaser also, so I get out in the action and try to get y'all good footage as best as I can. So definitely consider hitting the subscribe button, like the video if you like it. Thank y'all, and let's get rolling here. So let's talk about the weekend forecast. I do see some rain for a good chunk of the area here. As we're moving forward here, it looks like there's going to be a lot of scattered showers and storms really developing across the deep south, especially in the Mississippi, Alabama, even into Georgia, Tennessee, and it kind of looks like it dries out as it gets closer to Kentucky. But definitely widespread showers and tropical downpours, especially in Alabama. So it's going to be a rainy day, rain-cooled day, a lot of humidity, and just a lot of tropical downpours. Some areas could get a lot of rain quickly. This is going to try to get into the Georgia area, but I think it's kind of been trending away from not being as rainy for those areas as before, as it was looking like the last few days. So that's good news for people in Georgia. Moving forward here, looks like more showers and storms pop up in Alabama as you're getting into your Sunday. So pretty stormy weekend across the deep south. But if you're in the Carolinas, it looks more isolated in nature. It doesn't look like we'll have near as many showers. And in Virginia, Florida, y'all look very rainy too, or parts of Louisiana. But I think the most heaviest activity will be into areas of Alabama, and especially as far as temperatures, how do they respond with that? Well, with this here, you're going to see where there's an area of rain-cooled air. Let's see if we can get this rolling here. And there's an area of rain-cooled air going here as you're starting your Saturday. Temperatures begin to warm up here. We get into the 80s across the Carolinas, where there isn't any really big-time rain cover. So temperatures are going to soar into the 80s and 90s. It's going to be very humid. So it's going to be nothing like last weekend as far as that cool, crisp fall air mass. It warmed into the 80s last weekend, but there was low humidity. So it really wasn't that bad. It was nice. But, you know, areas you see highs in the 70s in Tennessee and Alabama. That's because you have rain-cooled air. So that's limiting the temperatures from rising big time. You get into your Sunday, temperatures do not get that low for your Sunday morning lows, so no crisp fall air in place, but kind of the same situation. Now, rinse and repeat, highs in the 80s and 90s, where there's a lot of rain and clouds, probably just highs in the 70s and 80s. But you look up here in the mid-Atlantic and northeast, good news for you guys, you're going to have a quick digging trough, a cold front that's going to move through today, which is going to allow for a definite more fall-type air mass for you guys up here as a cold front moves through kind of, you know, depending on where you are, midday to late evening. So highs, you know, you can tell what the boundary is, what the cold front isn't digging. Highs all soaring all into the 80s and 90s in some places in Virginia and even at Pennsylvania in the Ohio Valley. The cold front moves through. It doesn't dig that far. It only gets as far south as maybe areas of Pennsylvania. lows in the 50s and 40s. And definitely if you're in the interior Northeast, it is going to be a chilly morning for your Sunday morning getting going here, and only highs in the 60s and 70s across most of the Northeast. But if you're in West Virginia, North Carolina, Ohio Valley, the way this trough is digging, it's kind of digging this way, and it doesn't dig very far south. You guys will still be very warm. Now, let's talk about the tropics here, because these ads are annoying the mess out of me, but I'll let them play just because Tropical Tidbits, the guy that runs this site, he makes money off these ads, and he lets everybody use this site for free. So, it's important to show them ads sometimes. So, here we go. So the tropics. This is newly Invest 97L. This is 95L still. We've been talking about this for over a week. And this is newly formed Tropical Storm Odette. Odette is moving on out into the North Atlantic. And we'll show you a cone of uncertainty here in a second from the National Hurricane Center. But it's going to get kind of jammed up in a blocking pattern. The same blocking pattern that eventually is going to bring a big cold front into the eastern U.S. There's a little bit of kind of tropical energy in the Gulf of Mexico, but that's not expected to develop in anything. But other than that, that's probably it. There's nothing threatening on the horizon. Odette, Tropical Storm Odette, is a 45-mile-per-hour storm off the coast of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, and it's on its way further out to sea. But you notice this still has a 90% chance to develop. I really do think this still has a chance to be a named storm. It was almost certain it did at one point, but the chance is still pretty high. It'll be a next named storm, but it might not be. But we'll watch it. Either way, it really does not look like it's going to affect the U.S. There is almost a definite cold front that we're going to talk about, we've been talking about, that is going to knock this out to sea. The thing with this area out here, this begins to shut down, and the big reason is because the sea surface temperatures begin to cool a little bit. The threatening scenarios for anything coming out the main development region like this begins to settle down because you have more frequent troughs that dig across the eastern U.S. when you get later into the year, because it's the changing of the season. So you have more cold fronts do you see on average. What these cold fronts do is when they dig, they knock any tropical energy back out to sea, or jam it up, or sometimes, there just isn't any in general. So you have this area too that has a 40% chance to develop now per the latest 8 a.m. update, which is current. So this could be a named storm too. So we'll look at this here. And this is Tropical Storm Odette, 45-mile-per-hour storm. But check out where it's projected to go on out to sea. But you see how these S's right here kind of get really close together? It gets blocked. And that is because a ridge of high pressure sets up over southeast Canada. And what occurs there is it begins to block it over, and it tries to almost ridge over this system. So it kind of just gets curled up. It can't really go anywhere. And that is why it doesn't race out into the North Atlantic like a lot of systems do when they get in this region. It actually might try to curl back down here and interact with 95L, what could be Peter. And that'll be an interesting scenario. The European kind of shows that. Going forward here, let me see if I can get this a little bit bigger for you guys. And the European kind of shows that. It shows Odette getting way out in the North Atlantic, and then it almost drifts a little bit southeast, and then it comes south, and then it just stalls out and sits in one spot. It gets trapped under a ridge of high pressure. At the same time, you got 95L coming up, and they almost try to interact with each other, or Odette almost creates a weakness. So this, whatever energy's here, and in this case, the European fully develops a 95L into what would be Peter, and it kind of drifts towards what's left of Odette, and then they almost kind of meander around each other. At the same time, you have what would be potential 98L, because this would be a whole entire different system than 97L, and this has more life in the main development region, and then something trying to keep going. But even if this does form, this is 10 days out, this is getting into the last days of September, there is frequent troughs, cold fronts showing up across the eastern U.S. So I don't even think this could really even get close to the eastern U.S., honestly. And we'll check out the blocking pattern right here. As you can tell, this is Odette. This is cooler anomalies, but what basically this is this is the energy from Odette. Look at this ridge of high pressure building over the northeast. This allows for this cold front to dig here, because when this builds here, it opens up for some colder air, I wouldn't say Arctic air, but colder air to kind of release from the northern hemisphere and break down, which causes a cold front to dig into the eastern U.S. But this is Odette, and it just kind of gets trapped over this ridge of pressure, and there's some ridging over the northeast part of it also. So it can't really go anywhere. It can't really drift south either. If the ridge of high pressure pushes down on it, then it could. But with a cold fronts, frequent cold fronts coming down here, all these tropical systems that develop out here are not going to get that close to the eastern U.S. They're going to get pushed back out to sea. The only way, and you're just getting to that time of the year, the only way you can really get in a threatening tropical system in this scenario is if you start to get development in the Caribbean, some kind of CAG or something like that, and this begins to slip under all this energy and affect the Gulf states, which we're getting to that time of the year in October where systems on average do that. But if you look through the next 10 days, any tropical energy that forms, look how none of these lines go to the eastern U.S. None of them. And like I said, it's because the pattern in place, ridge of high pressure up here, frequent troughs digging here, pushing all tropical energy out here. Therefore, everything's going out in the sea. Now, that could spell trouble for areas like Bermuda. So we need to watch out for folks in Bermuda. But if you look at the GEFS ensembles, listen, any energy that does pop up stays out to sea. It really does. And really, there's not even a strong signal for anything close. I mean, sure, you have some pieces of energy still kind of meandering out here in the main development region, but at the same time, they're all getting very north in latitude, which normally means down the road that you're not going to have any threatening scenarios. So let's stop talking about the tropics. Let's talk about this cold front. So moving through, confidence is pretty much 100% now that we're going to have a big-time cold front that sweeps across the entire eastern U.S. These are dew points. And like I've mentioned before, this is something that I look for when you're trying to look at what atmosphere is in place, what kind of environment is in place, if you will. The lower dew points, sub 60-degree dew points, normally symbolizes relatively dry air. So these are dew points in the 40s sweeping across, and this vessel basically signals a cold front or sharp boundary between two air masses. That was the word I was looking for just a second ago. So dew point signals a difference between two air masses, a moist air mass and a dry air mass. So as we're getting into early to midweek next week, you had this cold front starting to get as far south as almost Houston, Texas, makes it all the way down there, starts to sweep through the Gulf states, and as early as Wednesday night into Thursday morning, starts to make it into the areas of the Carolinas and Georgia, and dew points all the way into the 40s. The coolest air of the season sweeps through the eastern U.S. And then after it kind of begins to kind of warm up again and moist air tries to get back in place, it looks like a reinforcing, another cold front moves through and reinforces that cool air. To me, that signalizes that we're having I wouldn't say a definite, especially areas in the far south regions of the U.S., but this is a big season-changing cold front that might last for several days, not just like a weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how cool it can get. The European shows it too. If it would please pull up, here you go. The European shows it too. It's always hard to make videos in the morning. Kids are going crazy. We're a very active family in the mornings. But you notice these are all lower dew points. I know this is always hard to see on y'all's screen. That's why I'm going to upgrade all my stuff here in the next couple weeks. Dew points in the 40s and 50s sweeping through the entire eastern U.S. It's just a beautiful thing to see, guys. I love this time of the year when you start to look for these cold fronts and the changing of the seasons. Leaves begin to change from north to south depending on location. Here in Columbia, South Carolina, you really don't see big-time significant changing almost until November. In fact, sometimes around Thanksgiving, where a lot of areas north of us, leaves are pretty much stripped altogether. Sometimes we have some of our most prettiest colors here in the central South Carolina around Thanksgiving, so late November. So Cold front's coming. It's looking good. As far as temperatures, how do they respond with that? Well, very warm through the weekend with moist air, but you can even see it on the temperature profiles here where the cold front is. This begins to sweep through. And areas like in Mississippi, Tennessee, maybe highs only into the 70s, all the way into the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, Louisiana. 60s for highs, almost downright chilly for high temperatures Wednesday across the Ohio Valley. And look at here, it makes it all the way across the eastern U.S. by the time you get into Thursday morning. Even areas in the Panhandle of Florida could be lows in the 50s as early as this coming Thursday morning. 40s for lows in certain areas. High temperatures next Thursday and Friday could potentially just be phenomenal. I mean, just amazing. Highs in the 70s for Thursday and Friday next week across even the southeast, Carolinas, Georgia, Florida. Well, not Florida, depending on where you are in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and just a beautiful, beautiful air mass. We'll touch base on this, see how cool it's going to get, but I definitely think certain areas are going to see their first 40s, definitely, of the season. So that's all I got. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a video tonight. My Gamecocks play Georgia tonight, so I have to watch my team get beat down, but I'm a passionate fan, so I'm going to be rowdy, so I'm probably not going to have time to get on here. But I'll try to double up my videos tomorrow. But thank you all for the support. Y'all have a great day. Fall air is on the way, but it's definitely not here this weekend. Y'all have a blessed day.